Hi, how's it going? I'm Matthew from Patchwerks, aka EZBOT, and here with another episode of This Week at Patchwerks, the synthesizer show that we put on every Friday at 3 o'clock on Twitch and Facebook Live. So, what we like to do is start off the show with a demo, and today it's aptly named OP-1 Field, so we will be demonstrating the OP-1 Field to you, which I have here in our video production studio at Patchwerks. That sure looks a lot like the original OP-1. Let's see if we can fix that. Ah, yes, there it is, the OP-1 Field. So I myself have been very excited for the OP-1 Field to come out. Many of us here at Patchwerks were stoked the moment that we saw it, and then even more stoked once we got to hear some sound demos of it. And I'm happy today that I get to show you some very high quality sound demos. I'm still getting to learn some of the new features, such as the new tapes. So now you can have mini tapes on your OP-1 Field. If you hold shift and hit this deck button here, this tape deck button, you can go in and choose different reels that you want to record to, and they have different sound qualities to them. The Studio 4 track is the highest quality. And then you're able to create new reels or rename things. Some of the quality of life improvements to the OP-1 Field versus the original OP-1, which I have here. Both of them awesome devices in their own right. Frankly, I love them both. But some of the quality of life improvements from the original OP-1 to the OP-1 Field are things like being able to name the presets that you come up with. Among that, they increased the audio quality, so now it's 44.132 as opposed to 44.116, so double the bit rate, so quite a bit more dynamic range. You're going to hear that in your samples. The sample engine is also now a stereo sample engine and or an A/B sample engine, so you can have a different sound on your left channel and a different sound on your right channel, and you can modulate between those two, or you can manually choose different sounds. So essentially, you could turn your keyboard into many different samples in your phrase that you have sampled, and you could have two different sounds per step or per key. So it doubles the amount of samples you could have on one keyboard. Pretty cool. That's one of the improvements in the OP-1. I know that you want to hear it, so let me just play some sounds for you real quick. So this is the new Dimension synth engine. It's a stereo synth engine. Let me make it not stereo real fast. Just the basic engine. And on the left encoder here, you can see that we have these waveforms. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with this graphic in the center. I know that I really like the way it looks though. And it looks even better when you turn up the stereo because it starts like separating the two waveforms. I'm assuming that is the left and right channel kind of being modulated or something. But over here you can interpolate from one waveform to the next. So we have a sawtooth with a sub at the very bottom and the very top. You have noise. Let me turn off the sequencer here. Let me turn off this effect, which we'll get to in a second because that's one of the other big improvements on the OP-1 Field. So the Dimension synth engine, as I mentioned, is a variable waveform oscillator running into a filter. I think it's a 24 dB filter. I honestly am not 100% sure about that. It might say in the manual. And then you also have this stereo adjustment here. And I'll show you how all of this sounds. So I'm going to start off, just play it. I was really, really low there. Here we go. So that's with a little bit of resonance. Let's make it have a long release. And now I'm going to show you what it sounds like with stereo. Very stereo. Here's at max stereo. I think right at about 30% is a really nice amount of the stereo input here. So the OP-1 has a massive battery life. We're talking massive. 24 hours of battery life in the OP-1 Field. And the original OP-1 had 16 hours, and to have it go any longer than that already is pretty incredible, honestly. You don't really need to turn it off most of the time. Like if you're going to step away from your synthesizer that's on battery power, you usually want to turn it off so that you don't have to go and charge it somewhere. But the OP-1 Field, that's not really the case. You'd have to leave it on for the entire day for that to happen. And not only that, it's a USB-C synthesizer. So you can charge it over USB-C, which can provide a lot of power. And most new computers have USB-C, as we're slowly adopting that into all of our electronics. So I'm glad to see that on the OP-1 Field. So yes, this new synth engine, it sounds really great. And you can hear that there is definitely an added sound quality to the OP-1 Field. And not that it makes the original OP-1 not something to want, because it still sounds awesome. They're both great sounding portable synthesizers. I have personally a ton of portable synthesizers, and some of the more popular, more recent ones like an M8 and an OP-1 and an OP-1 Field. And I'll tell you, and a Deluge and pocket operators, all those kind of things I have experience with. And the thing that I've always gravitated towards when I'm going out of town or going on a trip or just, going out of town for even just a day, and I know that I want to bring a music making device with me if it's not a guitar, it's the OP-1. It's always been the OP-1. It has been for about 6 years for me, and now it's the OP-1 Field. So the legacy continues as it is just the go-to instant fun box for making music. So let me show you their new effects that they've added to the OP-1. It's only one new effects engine, but everything has been improved significantly. So let's go over to the reverb and let me turn it on real quick. So here we are with Mother. This is the new nice sounding digital reverb, and it definitely is a huge upgrade, in my opinion, to the Spring reverb. Although the Spring reverb is cool and it has its own sound design potential, this is a much more classic sounding reverb that you could just use on pretty much any device or any sound in the OP-1 Field. So here it is. I'll make the distance its max so you can really hear how big this reverb can get. I mean, there's like a shimmer to it. It's pretty incredible. But it also has a gate. So like I just killed that reverb right there. You can see this little gate blocking this child from the mother. And then the color, which is, I'm assuming, adjusting a low-pass, high-pass filter of the reverb tank. So a great sounding reverb, honestly. Very satisfied with it. And one of my first thoughts I had as I've played with the OP-1 Field is, now's the time for me to go into my computer, use the OP-1 drum utility, and create multi-sample packs. Because you can go into your drum engine and you can use these as notes on a keyboard rather than as, sample slices, though it will be sample slices. But I could take a multi-sampled piano in here. I could take a multi-sampled violin or guitar and use it in the drum side of things and then play it on these keys. And you're gonna have a very, very high fidelity sounding synthesizer, especially with the 32-bit dynamic range that it has now. It's gonna sound awesome. Couple that with that reverb, you could actually get yourself a extremely realistic sounding piano that's got a 24-hour battery life and fits in your backpack. So that alone, to me, makes this device awesome. And I'm going to do that. And maybe I will get a chance to share that with you here at Patchwerks. But I have every intention of creating awesome sounding multi-samples using the drum engine. But speaking of the drum engine, let's have a listen to the stereo drum engine here. We have a bunch of awesome sequencers that we can use. That's nothing that's brand new to those of you who are familiar with the OP-1. What is brand new is how good the sample engine sounds now. And it does sound really good. And if you listen, you can hear that. If you're wearing headphones especially, you can hear that these are now stereo, because they are in different places in the stereo field. Especially that one. That one's in your right ear. Which is really great. So now when we're sampling the radio, there's that radio. So now when we're sampling the radio, like this, now we have stereo samples, which is really incredible. So I was kind of doing that earlier. It's kind of funny. Let's see. Let me find my patch. This is what I was doing earlier. It's kind of fun. So I heard this was on the radio here. It's just a lot of fun. So this is one of those machines that's just instant fun. You could use, say you're in a foreign country and you have this listen to the local radio there, you could start making music using local sounds. And I think that's a really inspiring feature about this device. And it's not something you see in other synthesizers, that you can just take what's around you and instantly turn it into music. Or sound design. And the sound design potential on here has definitely gone up because the sounds are just better. So it's a lot more fun to play with. Let's have a listen to some of the original sound engines. Actually, here's the sample engine, so the improved sample engine on the synthesizer side of things. This is the choir sound with that mother reverb. I mean, that's pretty great. You now have some other features too with the synthesizer sample engine. Now you have the ability to create fades, which is useful. And you have the ability to control the attack in the drum sides. If you hold shift, here's the attack of your sample. It doesn't display it the way it does on the synthesizer side, which shows you the fade, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. So each one of these sample slices can have a different position in the stereo field, so you can pan them specifically and have them play back and reverse specifically, or have them play for the duration that your finger's on the key, or have them play for the entire duration once your finger's on the key, or have them loop for a certain amount of time. So very full-featured when it comes to sampling. A lot of people were using the original OP-1 from what I understand. I've had an OP-1 for forever. One of the first premium synthesizers that I bought once I was getting into synthesizers was an OP-1. And I was often using the synthesizer engines, probably the most. I used to sample them all the time into my Digitac. But I did know that people were actually using the OP-1 the most, I think, as a sampler. And because it really just does a great job with that. It's a polyphonic sampler. So anything you sample, you can play back polyphonically. And I think it can play back 6 notes at a time. And Having 6 notes at a time of anything that you want at this higher sound quality is gonna make this thing appear in a lot more productions. I have no doubt about it. Bon Iver was doing, what, 1,000,000 to 1, I think the album is called? A lot of the music production done right on the original OP-1. So it's a professional device, there's no doubt, because it's being used professionally. And the OP-1 field will surely follow as people start getting their hands on them. And just look at this thing. I mean, I wish that I could somehow have you feel it, because the build quality is outstanding. It feels as good as it looks. And in the moment that I touched it, I was like, this thing is so nice. I don't know if I want to let anyone, fumble with it or tinker around too much. Of course I do, because things are best experienced with others, but it just feels like something you're like, ooh, I want to protect this. I want to get a deck saver for it because, dang, it's so nice and I want to keep it that way. They really did a great job of making you feel like you got a beautiful instrument. And that's surely what it is, and it sounds like a beautiful instrument. Among some of the upgrades, something I can't share with you so well right here, and this is one of the best features about the OP-1, in my opinion. This speaker is a custom speaker on the OP-1, and it is truly loud, and the fidelity is good. And not only that, when you play a bass note on here, or something that has a considerable amount of bass frequencies, it rumbles. It rumbles on your leg. Like, you can feel the bass. That's incredible to me. I've never felt, besides an Akai MPC, which also has a great speaker in it, this reminds me of that, the ability to just jam. When I first got the OP-1, and this is the truth, when I first got the OP-1 field, the first thing I did with it is I went and sat on my floor with my acoustic guitar, and I recorded a little drum loop, little 4-bar loop, and I just sat and played lead guitar over some chords that I did on the OP-1 field. And it was so loud and sounded so good that I actually felt like I had accompaniment. And then I was so happy right then and there, because that's what I want the OP-1 to do for me. I want the OP-1 to keep me company on a trip and to be that missing band member or band members when I'm by myself. And the OP-1 definitely does that. And besides the ability to sample just, anything, the OP-1 mic sounds really good. Let's see if I can do a little demonstration of that. So we'll go. The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic is so good. And so that's sampled into the synthesizer engine. With a ton of reverb. Let's turn that down. The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic is so good. Now we can do that polyphonically. The OP-1 mic is so good. There's a whole bunch of me. I do not like that. The OP-1 mic.
The OP-1 mic is so good.
I love it, right? And a new feature that didn't exist on the original OP-1 and something I'm very happy to see. If you go into your envelope generator window here and hit shift, there's volume for your patch. So now I don't have to turn the OP-1 up, I can turn my patch up.
The OP-1 mic is so good.
That's a great sound. That was very clean. There must be a gate on it or something.
The OP-1 mic is
The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic is the OP-1 mic. The OP-1 mic. The OP-1 mic. The OP-1 mic is so good. And then we can gain it up. What's really cool too is the magnification. These buttons on the encoders do work now, which is something you would have expected all along. But they're really useful, I found.
The OP-1 mic is so good. The OP-1 mic.
The OP-1
mic.
It's almost annoying. But so much fun to work with. And so in the drum side of things, let's sample the radio. Let's go over here. For not monetized, so we can do this.
Everyone I see, so tell me, do you see me?
Okay.
Do you
That's how good that is.
I see.
Can hit the button, go in, find a zero crossing. Kind of reminds me of working on the Octatrack, something I'm a big fan of.
See.
And that's in stereo. I actually really like that sound. It's just infinite exploration that you can have just because of the radio and the microphone being such a high quality microphone. And then on top of that, with the super high quality speaker, it's kind of the ultimate travel synthesizer now. They really did pull it off, and it is just such a substantial upgrade in so many places. And there's going to be so many more upgrades to come, from what I understand. Teenage Engineering has said that this base OS that it ships with, which I currently have upgraded to the newest update, they're going to continue to upgrade it, and there's going to be more, hopefully, engines, more features added to it, maybe some features that are being requested and have been requested being brought over to this, such as stereo sampling being probably one of the most famously requested features. And now we have that, higher quality computer inside of it, being able to name your patches here. You no longer have to plug into your computer to do your patches. But let's look at the tape side of things, which I have this goofy thing right here. But to use the tape on the OP-1 is very simple. You can put your in point here, and then you can select another out point, and this would be your loop. Look, we make it 4 bars. And that's very easy. And now I can, let's use something. We'll just put this A minor chord here. And you can hear how it sounds when you play it back. It's identical to what you just played, which is what you'd want. And it sounds fantastic. Now, if you want to just have it loop that segment that we just recorded, you hold Shift and hit the loop button here, and it will automatically loop the segment that you just recorded. If we hold Shift and hit play, it plays that backwards. Hit play again to have it go forward. So when you have it going backwards, hitting Shift and play will restart it from the backside. And just hitting play will have it start playing forward normally. So that's one of the performance tricks that you can do. There's a bunch of different tape tricks, and it comes with this very detailed instruction booklet that's about yay big, but a ton of pages. So all the details that you need, everything that's available on the PDF on the Teenage Engineering website is in the little instruction booklet. So it's nice that we actually get a paperback instruction booklet with all the details rather than having to go to the computer. So you could buy it and go completely off grid and learn how to use it from scratch. That's pretty great. So let's take a look at these tapes. I don't have all the details pulled up in front of me. Really what I wanted to show you was how good the machine sounded. I think we have to load a new tape for it to do this. We go new, preparing a reel. So now we're in the vintage 4-track. I don't know if you can hear a difference, but it is different.
The OP-1 mic.
But let's have a listen to some of the other engines. So every one of these other engines here on the OP-1 is what comes with the original OP-1. They've just been turned into stereo synth engines and become 32-bit synth engines. It seems like the way they're doing stereo is either alternating voices or just, I'm not quite sure, but they all do sound stereo now. There's something modulating them. So one of the other things, actually now that I see it, that I want to mention that's so cool is this button right here on your sequencers now will engage the hold on your sequencers, whereas before you had to turn it, which you still can do, but it's really nice to be able to just hit that button and start up a sequencer. The string engine really sounds so very stereo. Here's that spring reverb, which actually sounds vastly improved as well. Actually like it quite a bit. So now the delay is stereo, which you can hear. Change some of the graphics. So this is stereo effect as well, as you can tell. It's pretty crazy sounding. So all the effects are stereo. I'm learning too. That sounds crazy. Pretty cool though. The reverb's so great though. And mind you, we are in the vintage 4-track tape player, so we have a different sound quality entirely. So let's have a listen to another tape here. Let's go to the Porta tape. Go new, preparing tape. So now things are a little bit more lo-fi. Which is actually a nice sound on this Dimension set. This is a good time to talk about the sequencer that they added for the synthesizer engine. which is called hold. So the hold sequencer is exactly what it says it is. It just holds the notes for you. So it'll hold the maximum number of polyphony. Really great for coming up with a new patch. You can stop the hold by hitting the red button. And you can adjust the hold range. Here we go. Here's the hold range, which is pretty cool. So now I can go out of the hold range. And it won't hold those notes. So it's an interesting sequencer, very useful, I think. Some of the most useful stuff is for setting up chords that might feel complex for you to do with your hands, and or just tinkering with a patch without holding the notes down. So great for designing new patches. A very welcome addition, I would say. Let's have a look at the EQ here. You can now see there is a spectrum. It's kind of hidden. You probably can't see it, honestly, because it's really dark. I would like them to make it brighter. But there is actually a line showing you a graphic EQ. And we have a master effects. So if you ever want to use your OP-1 field or your OP-1 as just a synthesizer and not use any of the tape features and recording features, you do get two effects. So you could run your synth engine into a delay and then run the master track into the mother reverb. And then you'll have a reverb into a delay. Let's try that. So let's go back over here and switch this over to that delay and hear the ultimate sound. We'll give it more of a pluck. So there's a reverb, stereo delay into a stereo reverb on the OP-1. So now if you use something like the tombola, you can make some pretty generative music very quickly. And let's release all those little bouncing balls there. So, pretty darn cool. You can do all sorts of different things. There's lots of little OP-1 hacks to learn, lots of performance tricks to learn. Again, reminds me a little bit of the Octatrack when it comes to how you can manipulate it into doing stuff that maybe it wasn't designed to do right away, but people always find their tricks. So overall, I have to say, personally, I'm very pleased with the OP-1 Field. I think that it sounds great, it looks great, feels really good. The improvements are incredibly welcome. They are much needed in 2022 for a brand new synthesizer. And I think it feels like a modern music making device that I think just about anybody would enjoy having in their repertoire of synthesizers. But that's going to be it from me. I am Matthew from Patchwerks, and I will see you guys next Friday at 3 o'clock.